Football90 Shop, your one-stop solution for all your World Cup needs.
Ethan Nwaneri was supposed to be the next big thing at Arsenal when he made his debut in 2022, breaking the record for youngest player in the history of the Premier League and the English top flight at large. Everyone thought it was going to be up, and away for him from there, but after his initial rapid progress, things seem to have hit a roadblock for the teenager. His very recent loan move to Olympique Marseille this January highlights the very different trajectory the kid's career is taking compared to another academy graduate in Saka. And in this video, we want to talk about why things are different despite their many similarities. This is why Ethan Nwaneri didn't get the Saka treatment at Arsenal. Like we said, there are so many similarities between Nwaneri and Saka. They're both strong, left-footed right-wingers who like to cut in and shoot, but can also be very creative. But the similarities go beyond their play style. They were both born in London to Nigerian parents, and they joined Arsenal's academy at a very young age. Saka joined when he was 7, while Nwaneri joined when he was 8. They were both better than their peers in the youth teams, and they broke into the first team as teenagers. Saka would go on to become a major player and a leader in the first team without needing any loan move. But it has not happened like that for Nwaneri, who has needed to leave the club temporarily because of a lack of minutes. Both these players are loved so much by the Arsenal fans, firstly because they're products of the academy, but also because of their superior talent and superstar quality. Just like Saka a few years back, Nwaneri is seen as a player who can actually be the face of the club in a couple years. Now, it is easy to say that Nwaneri is not getting enough minutes because of how good Saka is on the right wing, but that argument is dead on arrival seeing how many minutes the newly signed Noni Madueke has gotten on the right wing this season. Also, Nwaneri has shown that he can also be played in the midfield, but has done nothing to help his case this season. In fact, with the Eze and Madueke signings in the summer, it looked like the coach was actively blocking the kid's path and development. And well, that sort of leads us to our first point. Arsenal is at a much different place right now than where they were when Saka was coming up. Back then, the club was still struggling and not really competing for anything significant, so it was much easier for a player to break into the first team. Now, there's a lot more pressure to win things, which is why they would prefer to sign and give minutes to already proven top players over inexperienced teenagers. Hence the signing of players like Eze, Noni, Nkapie and Mosquera in the summer. Every single game they play now is of utmost importance, so the manager has very little leeway for experiments and gambles. More so, Arsenal's poor results back then, when Saka was trying to break in, meant that they could not afford to spend much to bring in new players. When they did spend big on players like Pepe, it proved to be a not so good investment, so they realistically did not have many more options than to trust the players from the academy. Also, Bukayo Saka came up at a time where the fans needed something, anything. Results weren't the best, there was a trophy drought, and the frustration was growing among the fans, so a young player coming up from the academy was important to give the fans something to look forward to. They really needed that hope back then, and Saka gave them exactly that. He built this team with his bare hands, dragged the club from obscurity to being one of the best in the world, so it's just going to be very difficult for the fans to love any other player as much as they love him. No matter how good Nwaneri has proven to be, the different circumstances surrounding their come up makes it almost impossible for him to get the Saka treatment. He might get something close from the fans, but it will never be as deep and intense as the love and admiration the fans have for Bukayo Saka. There's a reason they call him their star boy. Another big problem is that in England, we have seen that it is much easier to break through from the academy through the defence. Trent Alexander-Arnold was a midfielder at the academy, but he had to convert to right back in order to break into the first team. Nwaneri's very good friend Miles Lewis-Skelly was also a midfielder in the academy, but he had to be converted to a left back in order to get substantial minutes in the first team. Even Saka himself broke into the first team via the left back route. It was only after he had established himself as a first team regular that he was permanently converted into the right wing position. But from what we've seen, Nwaneri simply isn't a defender. He's either a midfielder or an attacker, so perhaps that has posed some problems for him in hampering his chances of breaking permanently into the first team. But one major reason we just cannot ignore here is the coach. Saka broke into the Arsenal first team under a different coach, one who was eager to give youth team players a chance. Mikel Arteta, on the other hand, has not shown enough trust in youth. Yes, he gave debuts to Miles Lewis-Skelly, Max Dowman, and of course Ethan Nwaneri himself, but the same man has refused to give those players valuable first-team minutes. Instead, he made signings that have blocked their paths. Last season, Lewis-Skelly came up from the academy and did a fantastic job at left-back. helping the club get through an injury crisis. One would have thought that he would continue to get consistent minutes this season, but Arteta went and signed another left-back in the summer, which has effectively pushed the teenager to third choice. Perhaps even fourth choice, because he has sometimes chosen to use Timber over MLS at left-back when both Calafiori and Hincapié were unavailable. It's the same thing he has done with Nwaneri. Coming into this season, Nwaneri could have easily been the backup to Saka or Odegaard. Bringing in either Noni or Eze would have been great for squad depth while still not hampering Nwaneri's development. Between attacking midfield and right wing, he would have been able to get sufficient minutes, especially with the injuries some players have suffered this season. But bringing those two players just completely blocked his path, and this is more frustrating for some fans as they believe that Nwaneri is more talented and has a much higher ceiling than the likes of Noni, Eze and even Odegaard. So his development shouldn't be put on pause just so these older guys can play more. But then again, there's a possibility that Arteta is just trying to be extra careful with the younger generation. We complain every day that players are playing a lot more games these days, and when players start to get a lot of minutes as teenagers, it might affect their bodies later on in their careers. But hey, one thing is for sure, this is not the end of the world for the kid. Arsenal fans hate to see one of their own go, but thankfully it is nothing but a simple 6-month loan. Ethan Nwaneri will be back at the Emirates at the end of the season, hopefully better, stronger and a little more experienced. He is going to be getting more minutes under a manager known for developing young talents, so maybe something great can come out of this after all. When he returns to North London in the summer, he will be a 19-year-old young man with a better sense of responsibility and more first-team minutes under his belt. Maybe then, Mikel Arteta can find a place for him in the first team. But we now want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts on this? Were Arsenal wise to have let Nwaneri go out on loan? Was this a good move for the player? Did he deserve to actually be playing regularly for the Arsenal first team this season? Why do you think the teenager is not getting the Bukayo Saka treatment at Arsenal? Get in the comments and talk to us. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye. This new year, Goal 90 drops something special. Football-inspired phone cases made for the Goal 90 fam. From club colours to country pride, we've got you covered. And the best part? Customise it with your name and number. Head to the Goal 90 shop and get yours now.
Goal 90 Shop, your one-stop solution for all your World Cup needs.